What is going on, everybody? What is going on? Hopefully, everybody is doing great. Really appreciate everybody, coming to the stream, man. I just want to be with my guy here, my guy David, man. We started a thing. We was doing the in-game stuff. We was doing the post-game stuff. But man, what's going on, David? How you doing, man?
Good man, good. Just took a little break. Just enjoying the off season, watching some playoff baseball. It's already gotten to a crazy start, so just enjoying the vibes. But yeah, man, thank you for having me, bro. You're my guy.
Yeah.
Honored to be on your show. You drop nothing but dope content, so I'm just honored to be a guest, man. Appreciate you.
Appreciate you, bro. Appreciate you, man. I mean, I want to get started here. Overall, what did you think of 2025 when it comes to the Mets? Like, how did you feel about it in the beginning and then towards the ends? Like, how did that play out? How did you feel about the signings and all that type of stuff? How did you feel?
I mean, I thought their offseason was disappointing. I know the big fish was Juan Soto, but after Juan Soto, it really wasn't much. I mean, they end up signing Frankie Montas, they get Griffin Canning, two disappointments. I mean, Griffin Canning wasn't really a disappointment per se, but when you look at how his 2024 was, 5-16 record with the Angels, his ERA was in the fives. Um, and then you sign one of the worst pitchers in baseball today, Frankie Montas. That made it even worse. That your best signing, in my opinion, was bringing Sean Manaea to on a 3-year deal after the success he had last year, and that wasn't even a success this year. Um,
Mm,
Steve Cohen comes in, does what he usually, you know, not I want to say he does what he usually does, but proved everybody, wrong in terms of getting the big guy, and that was Juan Soto. But after that, that was it. There wasn't necessarily a big move that they made in the offseason last year for you to be like, yeah, we're gonna fight. This is what I'm talking about. The pitching was on a question mark, and the only reason a lot of us gave it the benefit of the doubt is because of how the pitching last year turned out. Remember, nobody was confident about last year's pitching. Nobody knew what last year's team was gonna do. We were kind of just shrugging our shoulders, like, all right, another season. Let's see what this team does. When we signed Severino, we were like, okay, they got him on a 1 year, $13 million deal. Cool. Let's see what happens. We didn't, you know what I'm saying? The expectations were on NLCS and they passed those
yeah.
expectations. So now you have to be more aggressive with your starting pitching, and they didn't necessarily do that. Kodai Senga had himself a fall off. You know what I'm saying? Like there wasn't a lot of pitching that we were confident with. It took them to use three kids to kind of try to save themselves, and that couldn't even help. So,
Yeah, man.
I declared, obviously, people are gonna be like, well, you signed Juan Soto, so that should automatically be a success. They signed Juan Soto. Okay, cool. Overall, the offseason was a disappointment, and
Mhm. and
you
and
saw the result.
The AJ Minter move, I felt like that was a potentially a good move for the Mets, but then he got injured, and then
Right.
he missed the whole year. But basically, I felt like AJ Minter would have been a big he I think he was going to be one of the biggest free agency signings if he would have stayed healthy, man. I really think that way. But no,
I
you're
agree.
right, man. I mean, when you sign Juan Soto, I mean, you got to make this team better. You got to make this team better. And you sign a Griffin Canning, you sign a Frankie Montas, you sign a Jose Siri. To me, I just don't feel like that was the ideal way to get better when it comes to the New York Mets in 2025. And
Right.
I just felt in 2025, it was a tough, tough, tough year, man. It was a really tough year. The injuries really sucked, but the pitchers, man. I mean, the starting pitching collapsed. This was a collapse for the starting pitching.
Right.
Like, oh my goodness, man. I hope that they get better going forward. But man, 2025. I want to ask you, what did you think of the David Stearns press conference at the end there? His final press conference. What did you? I don't know if you watched it, and
Mhm.
if you did, what did you think about his comments? Do you feel like he maybe is humble? Do you feel like he's maybe going to learn from this? How do you feel potentially about David Stearns?
I mean, the positive from it is that he took a lot of accountability. He was very honest about what he didn't like, what went wrong, and what they're going to try to do. The negative for me is that it's just words. And of course, you got to tip your cap. When they asked him about the coaching staff, he said they were going to do an evaluation, and they did. They basically cleaned house.
Oh yeah,
And
we're gonna get to that. We're gonna get to that. But go ahead, keep going. Go ahead.
they did that, but everything else that he spoke about within the rotation, within run prevention, within guys in the infield, this core. There was a lot of interesting things that he said, and it led up to just him saying that it's an evaluation. They're gonna look into it. They're gonna try to see what they got to do to just be better. So again, it's he said she said type of thing. I'm more of, I'd rather see the action than just you saying what you're going to do. Um,
Mm,
he didn't really seem confident when they asked him about adding a starting pitcher in free agency, although he said he would be open to it. Um, but this, we've known that his mindset is building his starting pitcher through the system, through the farm
yeah.
system. Um, it just, to me, it just it seemed like, yeah, he was taking accountability, but it was one of those things where it's like, all right, season's
Yeah.
over. Let me just shrug my shoulders, be
Do,
up there in the podium, and just give the fans what they want to hear, so then I could just be done with this shit and just go into the off
yeah.
season.
Do you think he will change his philosophy? Do you think he's humble? Do you think when it comes to David Stearns, he's going to go out and maybe make a trade, or he's going to go away from his philosophy a little bit? Do you think he's going to overall, yeah, do you think he's going to go away from it? The fact that it failed this year, like, what do you think?
I mean, I think he'll stay the course about what his philosophy is. I mean, there's a reason why he was ready to bring up Nolan McLean, and you saw how that worked out. There was a reason why he thought Jonah Tong was going to work out, and I think he think he will. I just think he needs a little bit more time. Brandon Sproat, uh, I didn't have an issue with. I thought he was a little bit shaky, but not to the point where he was Jonah Tong type of
Yeah.
shakiness. Um, I think he's gonna stay the course and put some more belief in his young pitchers and see how that works out. And that ultimately depends on how they start in spring training. If they have a very successful spring training, those three you're gonna see them back in the rotation. And if shit hits the haywire, then maybe at the deadline, you're gonna see him probably make an aggressive move to where maybe he does get a starting pitcher, and a certain guy's gonna have to move. Maybe if that's a Clay Holmes, if that's a David Peterson, maybe that's a Manaya. You know what I'm saying? Especially because we saw the piggyback between Clay Holmes and Sean Manaya. Who knows? My thing is, people are coming out here in the chats that we talk, in spaces that we talk, even people that aren't like that do Mets content, that firmly believe that the Mets are going to go out there and get a starter in the offseason
Mhm.
market. Personally, for me, and I could be wrong, this is just my opinion, I don't think he's going to do that. When you sign Clay Holmes to a 3-year deal to become a starter,
Oh
and he
man.
actually was our best starting pitcher this season. When you bring back Sean Manaea on a 3-year deal, when you have Kodai Senga, as bad as he is still a starting pitcher. And then you have these three kids who can actually pan out in spring training and might fight for a spot for your opening day roster. I have a feeling that he's gonna look at those guys to try to get them. Even David Peterson, I got a feeling that he's still looking at them as something that's reliable in a way to where they can still do
Mhm.
good in the starting rotation. And I don't think he's just gonna go out there and get a starting pitcher. Everybody keeps thinking about Framber Valdez and whatever. He doesn't seem like he does not. David Stearns does not seem like the guy to me that he wants to just go out there and sign an ace. I think he wants to build an ace. And right now, Nolan McLean is leading that charge.
Yeah, no, Nolan McLean is leading that charge. I think that's a guy that could be a potential ace, but I think you have to. I mean, I hope that the Mets get a starting pitching like a one of those aces, one of like a Sandy Alcantara, somebody like a Tariq Skubal, somebody that can anchor this rotation. I think I mean I hope that David Stearns gets one of those guys. Like the Mets, I feel like don't have that. They have McLean, but like McLean, like you don't know what McLean is really going to be. Like it's not a sure thing, you know. So if you can get a guy like my idea was to get maybe a Shane Bieber or somebody like that, maybe a Sandy Alcantara to help this rotation. I would love that, but I get what you're saying about the Clay Holmes. To me, Clay Holmes had a really good year. He finished ninth in the ERA. He did a great job. But overall, when it comes to Clay Holmes and a Sean Manaea, those guys like Senga, I just don't trust Kodai Senga. Me personally, we're gonna get to that later on, but I just don't. I don't know, man. It's really tough. I just hope that somehow the philosophy does change a little bit. Like change a little bit. Like I get it. You want sustainable success. I get it. I want that too. And they're gonna have to get that from their young pitchers. They're gonna have to at some point.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
man.
mean, the train goes with them. The train starts with them at this point. I'll be honest with you.
Yeah. I want to get into our next topic here, and that is the coaching staff being fired. How do you feel about the coaching staff being fired? I know a lot of Met fans were clamoring for the hitting coach Eric Chavez to be fired, and you know I understand why, and I know you were definitely clamoring for it as well. But overall, how do you feel about all the firings, and also Jeremy Hefner, one of the long tenured New York Mets guys? How do you feel about that?
I mean, I thank God answered my prayers. And then you saw I posted that in the group chat when that came out. God answered my prayers. I'll be the first one to say it. Those of you guys that are here that know me, that know Randy, that's in the chat with me, that has had personal conversations with me, I have said it multiple times. I am not somebody that calls for anybody's job. It is hard to be where those gentlemen are. They have experience. There's a reason why they're up there, right? So who the fuck am I to call for somebody's job that is on a higher and much better position than I am? All I do is give my opinion and talk about the game that I love. However, not to toot my own horn, not to, say that I'm better than anybody, because I am not. When you're watching these games on national television every night, when you're at the stadium almost every game and watching it from a seat, from a fan perspective, and
And
you're
you
not
went to
only
a lot
just
of games this year, right? You went to a lot of
right,
games this year.
correct. But
So
the thing is, people think that when I go, or when these fans go that are really invested into this team, they think that we're watching it just sitting there having fun and shaking pom poms and just eat, you know what I'm saying, just to be there. I'm doing it because I enjoy it, but I'm also doing it from a baseball mind perspective. I'm looking at body language. I'm looking at how the approach of an at bat. I'm studying it as if I'm part of their coaching staff, because I'm invested in this team. I want them to win. I pay a lot of money for these season ticket holders, not only because the vibe is fun, but I also want to know every move that they make, the information about every guy that's on this roster. That you know what I'm saying? Like every rookie that they call up. Like I'm invested into every part of every detail of the game. So it go to your question, when I'm looking at, inconsistent approaches at the plate, the pitching being very inconsistent, Jeremy Hefner waiting until pitchers are in bad situations to come out of the dugout and finally talk to these guys when the bases are loaded with no outs, and you already know that mentally they're fucked up because they're having issues with a certain pitch command, or they just can't throw a certain pitch. That to me speaks volumes in a negative way. Eric Chavez, who's been here since 2022, I've said from May, I didn't care if all of a sudden the offense from June up until September went on a crazy hot streak. I still didn't want him here. I didn't, because at the end of the day, the approaches at the plate were up and down for me. And at the end
Oh
of the
no.
day, whether that was Eric Chavez or that was Jeremy Barnes, then they both needed to go. But at the end of the day, everybody was saying Eric Chavez this, Eric Chavez that. It got to a fucking point where Francisco Lindor had to check him. There was an article that came out where Francisco Lindor had to wake him up and really be like, yo, like, what are you
Really?
doing? Yes.
Oh
Yes.
shoot, this is news to me. I didn't know that. Wow.
Yes, this came out like what 2-3 months ago. Like,
Wow.
like Francisco Lindor had to tell him, like, yo, bro, like, what are you doing? So if your best player on the fucking team is basically calling you out, that I was laughing because I was like, and then y'all wonder why a lot of us have been saying fire Chavez. And then he wants to be a Mitchell Robinson part two. For those of my Knicks fans that know, he wants to be on Instagram and be posting all these things. And it's just like, brother, you don't look believable. You don't. So, you know, with him, I'm glad that it's like, yo, finally, let's get the stench out of here, because the offense was not producing
Yeah, I mean,
consistently enough.
we were one of the worst teams in all with runners in scoring position. We were absolutely horrible. And I get exactly why everybody. I get a lot of people why
Hefner, listen,
they
Hefner,
wanted him gone.
right. The deal with Hefner's been here since what, 2018,
Mhm.
2017? I think enough is enough.
Yeah, he's been here
The
since 2019.
brother, enough is enough. The pitching has been way too inconsistent year after year after year. Like, to me, it's like, if it like he had to go. And the thing that boggles my mind is that Met fans want to come on social media and been like, wow, Jeremy Hefner out of all people should have never been gone. And what has Jeremy Hefner? I'm gonna ask you this question, right? I know you're the host, right? But I'm gonna ask you this question. What has Jeremy Hefner from 2019 up until 2025? What has he done for you to say that he deserved to stay here? Besides having a pitching rotation in 2022, the only, in my opinion, the only successful pitching. Well, I'll give 2024 his credit. You got it. Cool. But even with 2022, shit fell down. If we remember August and September in 2022, what has he done for you to say, yo, Jeremy Hefner deserved to stay and should have never gotten fired? Tell me.
No, I can't give you the what I mean. Like 2022, like you said, they went to the playoffs, but I can't give you that. That I can't give you his
There's nothing.
accomplishments. I can't
There's
give them to you.
nothing. Brother, there's
Like,
nothing. If you want to,
there's nothing.
if you want to give him 2024, fine. Go ahead. You get a cookie for that. That's cool. Go get a crumble cookie or insomnia cookie and enjoy it. That's cool. I'll give him that. There's nothing else from 2019 up until 2025. Take out
I mean,
2024 that I can honestly.
there was talks about this pitching lab and Hefner and Stearns and that collaboration or whatever. I mean, this pitching lab, what did it do for us in 2025? Nothing. I mean, Frankie Montas was absolute trash. Sean Manaea was trash. David Peterson, he looked really tired at the end there, and he was horrible. Like, it was.
Look, I look at this comment right here. Brick Frank.
And we were also one of the most walks. Like we walked we were one of the teams that walked the most people. Like, it's just crazy.
Well, I'll give you like Big Frank, right? Shout out to you, Big Frank. That's my guy.
Shout out to Big Frank.
You, bro.
Hefner survived because all the pitchers loved him and pleaded for the team to keep him. Yeah.
And that's a red flag for me. Because as much of respect that he's got in that clubhouse, it wasn't generating to success on the field within the pitching staff.
It wasn't. It really wasn't.
And again, this is what, like, to me, it was mind-boggling because I'm like, yo, a lot of people that were saying Jeremy Hefner should have stayed, y'all claim that y'all watched this almost every game. So how were you not paying attention to the timing when he comes out to talk to his pitchers, the what he's telling these pitchers? Because I'll give you an example. Jonah Tong's a perfect one. The brother's getting rocked by the Texas Rangers, and you're telling him to throw all changeups when when they weren't touching his fastball.
See, that's something that's been talked about before, but Carlos Mendoza has said that that wasn't a part of their plan. I think that was between Francisco Alvarez and Jonah Tong that they wanted to do that. I don't think that was on Hefner at the time there. I don't know. I don't know if you still think that, but I don't think it was on Hefner to call for the 12 changeups in a row in Texas.
Yeah,
I
but
mean,
then my thing is when Hefner comes out and talks to Tong, and you go back in the dugout, he's still doing the same thing.
that's a
So
fact.
what
That's
are
true.
you as a pitching coach? What are you saying that's making him continuing to do that, and it's getting worse? That's
That's a
my
good
problem.
point. That's a
So
good point.
that again,
That's
that
a good
right
point.
there, that's just the top of the top right there in terms of him not having a feel for the game. Funny thing is, Mendoza's on the same fucking path. And I love
Yeah.
Mendoza. I'm a Mendoza guy. Everybody was hating on him this year. I was giving him chance after chance after chance.
Yeah.
But it is true when they say that Carlos Mendoza didn't have a feel for the game. There were a lot of situations where it seemed like he was punting a game and just wasn't reading certain situations within the game itself. And that's a problem for me because it's like, brother, a lot of the moves you made last year, they actually worked. So what took you off from certain moves that you were making from 20? And I get it, they didn't give them the strong pieces to really deal with it. The pitching wasn't that great.
Mhm.
I understand that. But when you were still winning these games and you could have brought in certain relievers into this game and not keep going with the same ones, the same retreads, when you had healthy guys to put in, you didn't go to it. So when they
Yeah.
give up this lead and we're all like, yo, Mendoza, what the fuck are you doing? Excuse my language. What are you doing? Like, people
No,
wonder
it's a
why they
good
gave
point.
him
It's a good
why
point.
they
You're right. Yeah.
you know what I'm saying?
What are you doing? What were these guys doing? I mean, Sand said Hefner couldn't figure out to stop the walks, drove me crazy. All those full counts, 3-2 and a walk. Like, and then Eva said here, see here, the thing I noticed the most about the pitching, too many full counts, even our best pitchers, not many Ks. Why is it that the coaching or the pitchers themselves are both? Like, I get it. Nah, I get it. That's perfectly right. Like when it comes to Hefner, I think it's time to let the guy go. I think it is what it is. Let
They
bygones
need
be
they need
bygones
to
and move on.
they
Move
need
on.
to clean
Eric
house.
Chavez, bye bye. You needed to be first of all, Lindor had a problem with you, and many fans had a problem with you.
See,
So I just hope that whatever they do after this with the coaching staff, it's just a better coaching staff with Mendoza. Carlos
right.
Mendoza, he's back whether we like it or not. He's back, and he hopefully he's gonna have a good coaching staff behind him. There's been names about Manny Ramirez. There's been names about Alfonso. Who do you think would be an ideal hitting coach? Do you think Manny Ramirez would be an ideal hitting coach for the New York Mets?
One of the best power hittings and contact hitters in the game. I think if they get their hands on Manny Ramirez, I think that would definitely be a big boost. Somebody that has actually went out there and pitched, and hit in big spots, especially for the Boston Red Sox. Again, a World Series champion. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
to me, I think it's a no brainer. Now, if he wants to come here is the question, but I think
Well,
right
he's
now
he's he's been on record that say that he's interested in being a hitting coach.
for the
So
Mets though is
for
what I'm
just
asking.
in general, a hitting
Okay,
coach. So
right.
I
So
don't
go
know. I don't know if
right.
it's for the Mets, but
So goes to
I
my
hope.
question.
I
He
hope.
could he could he could come out there and say, "Yo, I want to be a hitting coach." But does he want to be a hitting coach for the Mets? Is the real question. And I think he does, because it's like, yo, Juan Soto's on this team. I got Lindor. You know what I'm saying? I got young Dominican kids that I could help out as well. I think he does. I just hope that it's not a situation where we all think that he's gonna be here and then all of a sudden it's he's a hitting coach for a different team. So I think if from a Mets perspective, I think it's a perfect choice. Hell, if
Yeah.
Carlos Beltran wanted to be open for the idea, I'd fucking do it. The only thing with Beltran is that Beltran wants to be more of a higher up guy, so it necessarily wouldn't work. But I think Manny Ramirez would be a perfect choice.
Yeah, I mean, I think that would be a nice choice too. I think that would be a really nice choice for the Mets, and I hope that maybe Manny does become the hitting coach. What do you think about Carlos Beltran that Sanders canceled said for the bench coach position? How do you feel about that? Do you think he will overshadow Mendoza? What do you think about Beltran in that role?
I mean, it would definitely be it definitely would be a big upgrade because again, you have a veteran that knows how to that knows so much. Basically just being next to um Carlos Mendoza and kind of giving him tips in certain situations and stuff like that. But I don't feed into it that much because I know where Carlos wants to not personally, it's been from what has been said about him
Yeah.
that he would rather be in the front office type of position
Okay.
when it comes to dealing with a team. I mean, obviously, he was going to be the manager for the Mets before the whole scandal came out. So that was kind of him kind of going down just a little bit, but it's been been said that he wants to be more of the higher up. So I don't really put too much weight on it. But if something does come out to where he says he's open to the idea, I think it would help Mendoza a lot because this is a guy that has a very, very good IQ about the game. Obviously, has played it in big situations. He knows, certain guys on the Mets already. He's very close with them. Has a relationship with them. Has been down to the minors to give a lot of tips and advice to the young kids. So it helps all around. But specifically for Mendoza, for somebody that is Latin himself, that could speak Spanish to him, that kind of give him the advice in certain games before, in the middle of it, and after, I think it would be a beautiful choice. But like I said, I don't feed into it
Yeah.
because of what has been said of where he's interested. But if something does come out and he is interested in doing that,
Yeah.
I'd sign up for it. And again, he's a fan favorite, so everything ties in perfectly with that.
For sure, for sure. Yeah, Mendy had a bad year. He made stupid choices, but he also had the worst tools to work with. Let's hope 2026 will be better for him. If not, then he can go too. Remember, he brought Stanek out in an elimination game. LOL. That is a great point.
I didn't even
That is a
watch that
great
game. I
point.
was I was I was on vacation, so I don't
As
even.
good thing you didn't, bro.
Mhm.
Give Manny a chance from Elvin. What's going on, Elvin? Manny would make Vientos a monster. Ooh, like that. I like that. Let's get into our
I
next
agree. I
topic
agree
here,
with that. Yeah.
and that is the Mets chemistry in 2025. How do you feel about the Mets chemistry in 2025? And before you answer this question, I don't know if you heard, but there was an article with Fox Sports that the way they talked about it about Juan Soto and the chemistry with Francisco Lindor with the team, and overall Juan Soto was a little, he's basically a little more to himself, introverted, and Lindor is a more, guy that's out there. But overall, when it comes to Soto, that he wasn't trying to be this rah rah guy. He was just trying to do his own thing, lead by example, and just do his own thing and just let it be let anything come originally. But Starling Marte had to push this guy to get more interactive with the teammates, to get have some fun with the guys and that type of stuff. And Marte and Ronnie Mauricio, they played dominoes with Soto to get closer. They went on team dinners and stuff like that. So when it comes to team chemistry, we saw team chemistry in 2024 with the New York Mets and how they had Jose Iglesias, how they had JD Martinez. But obviously in 2025 they didn't have those guys. They only really just Marte. So how do you feel about the chemistry in 2025 compared to 2024? And do you feel like chemistry is an issue going forward to 2026? How do you feel about it?
I mean, the chemistry in 2024 going into 2025 was way different. Obviously because you had those vets like JD Martinez and Jose Iglesias, and then on top of that, they feeded off the hypeness of Iglesias, song and feeding into the OMG thing, and it happened at the right time. They found the groove, and that was happening at all at once. So the chemistry, is there. I think this team did have chemistry. Only difference was that they just weren't playing consistent. They weren't playing consistently well enough. So it looked like the chemistry wasn't there, but everybody has to
Mm.
understand, if we're not playing well, we're not going to be fucking, shaking ass and popping bottles because we're losing, games. No, it's going to look like, you're going to look mad. You're going to look down because you're losing games, especially the way that they lost it. They were up 21 games at one point, over 500 in first place. That division was technically ours before we squandered it. You know what I'm saying? Like, we should be playing the Dodgers, right? The
Yeah.
Dodgers right now in the division series.
But even when they were winning games, I
You
just
saw
didn't
it.
get
No, I saw it. The problem is that people were looking at Soto. Oh, why isn't Soto happy? Why isn't he smiling? Why isn't he pumping up every time he hit a home run? And I think, for me, the brother knew where he was signing. He knew where he was going. He'll be fine. You even saw the last 3 months of the year,
yeah.
he was starting to do his shuffle a little bit. He was starting to get, jump every time he did the handshakes after a home run. He saw him, smile a little bit more. Like, everything was starting to come back to form. And to I forgot what game it was. I believe it was the game on Sunday where we played the Mariners, and we played in that the Little League World Series game.
Yes,
Where,
yes.
if I'm not mistaken, I think it was that game, but I don't remember if it was that one specifically. Ken
Where
Rosenthal,
the kids wanted him to shuffle and he shuffled?
not because of that. It was an interview. We won the game, but it was an interview that Ken Rosenthal did. It was a post-game interview that he did with Juan Soto, and Ken Rosenthal basically asked him a certain, I forgot what the question was, but I do remember his answer being, this is taking me a little bit time to get used to the contract, the new team, the
Oh,
environment.
yes.
And
Yes.
so many people were killing him and kind of getting on him, saying that he wasn't happy, that he didn't look comfortable. And he
Yeah.
basically just
He wanted
answered,
to go back to the Yankees and all that bullshit.
he
Yeah.
basically just answered that stigma, that's that notion that he wasn't happy. And I said that. I said that
Yeah.
within his first 2 months of the year. I said, bro, y'all gotta understand, there's so much pressure on this guy because he just signed the highest athletic contract in fucking sports history. Like, that's pressure enough. Like, what are you talking
For
about? So, like,
sure.
you
For
know what I'm
sure.
saying? That's a lot to deal with, regardless if it's a contract. Yeah, cool. He's getting all that money. At the end of the day, he understands what he has to do because of that contract. He understands where he's coming into, and he understands what has to be done. At the end of the day, you're still a human being, and certain human beings still go through pressure. Not a lot of them. There's certain people that know how to deal with pressure, and they don't believe in pressure. They perform in the best pressure situations possible. Juan Soto did it with the Yankees last year. You know what I'm saying? Like, but at the end of the day, pressure is still going to be pressure. So he
Mhm.
openly admitted to that. And I always go back to that interview because not a lot of people talk about it, but he basically just opened up and answered everybody's question.
Yeah.
So the chemistry started to get there little by little. It was there when they were winning. When they would win games, you see them very, very, nonchalant. They were talking to each other. There was this notion that Pete and Soto didn't like each other. Yet every time Pete or Soto hit a home run, they were dapping each other up, smiling, goofing
Yeah.
around. So the chemistry was there. It's just that there was a
Yeah,
lot
we
of
were seeing
losing.
it more and more down the line. We're seeing it
There,
more and more
there,
down the
there was
line.
a right. There was a
Yeah.
lot of losing games that had them in a bad mood. And again, I tell my
Yeah.
fans all the time, if I'm losing 6 straight games in a row and I'm losing and I have a bad record for the month, you think I'm gonna be happy? You think I'm
Yeah.
gonna be smiling in the dugout? If they were killing Francisco Lindor, because Francisco Lindor would ground out and he would smile.
Yeah.
But it's like, brother, he's not smiling because he's happy that he grounded out. He's smiling because he's trying to figure out, what the hell am I doing wrong? Because he went through a slump.
Yeah.
So, again, I don't worry
Baseball
about the
baseball's a
chemistry. Go ahead.
baseball's a hard game. Baseball's a hard game. It's not easy.
I don't
And
worry about the
you know,
chemistry, bro.
it
I don't that doesn't concern me. Like these
that's
guys
good.
know
That's good.
they build on that. They know who they are. They know what they need to do. They went through a rock bottom. I'm sure it all depends on how they build in that chemistry to start the year.
Mhm.
But we don't need to know everything that they do. These
No, for
guys,
sure.
these,
For
these
sure.
guys could build
Sure.
chemistry on the off season, and we don't even know how they're gonna do it. But
Yeah.
that's not what I need to know. All I want to
Yeah.
know is that the chemistry is there on the field, and it's helping them
Yeah.
to their advantage to win ball games.
I think chemistry is a big thing when it comes to a team game because this is a team game. And you saw last year, they were taking pictures on the bus, they were going to each other's events, there was a lot of magic last year. There was a lot of chemistry last year. And 2025, it wasn't like that, but you're not going to get that type of magic and chemistry all the time. So it is what it is. Let's get into our next topic here. And that is, what do the Mets need? What do the Mets really need? Do they need starting pitching? Do they need a third baseman? Do they need a center fielder? Overall, I think me personally, I think they need starting pitching. I think you need starting pitching with the New York Mets. I think McLean is a guy that is very, very impressive, and he's shown some things. He's shown to be a very impressive rookie. And next year, we're going to see more of him. But we need to see a ace. We need to see an anchor in this rotation. We need to see somebody that we can believe in, that we can put out there and put in a playoff game and be confident in. And I feel like if you sign a guy like maybe a Shane Bieber, you trade for a Sandy Alcantara, you're gonna have a good 1, 2, 3 there. And obviously Clay Holmes and Sean Manaea, David Peterson, whatever, those will probably be a 6-man rotation, and they trade Senga. That's what my ideal rotation, I guess, would look like if Sandy was on the table and if they wanted to go after Shane Bieber. I don't know what you think about that starting rotation. How would you feel with that starting rotation that I just said? How would you feel about it?
That's not a bad starting rotation. I would do it. If it's getting us away from Senga's inconsistency at that point, and you're putting him on a team that really won't affect us that much. Depending on how we play Miami next year, it might be the same crap where we play down to them. But you're getting somebody that is right now a bit better than Kodai Senga. My thing is, I just think I don't know. I don't see David Stearns being very aggressive with the rotation. I just don't.
Even though the collapse of this year, you don't see
No.
any change of aggressiveness
He
or
doesn't give me, oh, I want to go out there and I want to explore the market to get an ace. He gives me, I think our young core, our young guys are good, and I want to build through that. And we still have somebody that is good in Clay Holmes and David Peterson. That's what he gives me. And unless one of those five guys, which I'm talking about Nolan, I'm talking about Tong, I'm talking about Sproat, and I'm talking about Clay and Peterson. Unless one or Sean Manaea, however you switch it, unless those guys really fall off to where David Stearns has to make an aggressive move and get somebody at the deadline, that's where I see him going. Now, shout out to Sanders. Sanders put it. He said, I'd sign Ranger Suarez or Framber Valdez. I'd probably listen. If he wants to do that, I'm okay with that. I'm cool with that. It adds to our rotation. I'm not saying that I don't want him to add it to our rotation. I do. I want them. I want them to sign somebody in the offseason to put in our rotation. The problem is the way he talks and what he says does not give me confidence that he will do that. I want him to prove me wrong, though. I honestly, I want to get a notification that says David Stearns and the New York Mets have signed Framber Valdez, or the New York Mets have signed Ranger Suarez. Even though people have their ups and downs on them, that's a much better piece than what we have right now. But
for
he
sure.
does not give me the confidence that he will go and do that. So until he proves me wrong and they go do that, I'm just gonna stay back and I'm not even gonna say nothing. Let him do what he got to do. Because, like I said, in that press conference, there were a lot of things where I said, okay, he's taking accountability, but I shrugged my shoulders with it because it didn't sound like he was very, very, very concerned. It sounded to me like he just wanted to be like, yeah, I'm just here to answer your questions, basically take accountability and just leave. So,
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think, man, I truly hope he changes some of his thinking when it comes to starting pitching, because if you go into the season with Nolan McLean, with Kodai Senga, Sean Manaea, David Peterson, Clay Holmes. I mean, how many did I name there? 5? And maybe Brandon Sproul? I mean, are we confident in Kodai Senga? Are we confident in Sean Manaea? I personally am not. I'm not confident in those guys. And I think when David Stern said I'm not penciling in Kodai Senga for 30 starts next year, I think that shows that
right?
Maybe he could be traded. Maybe
Maybe.
Senga could be traded. Maybe Stern just like, all right, maybe he's changing his thinking a little bit. I don't know. I hope for it.
To answer your question, though, I mean, it's not only the rotation. They need to figure out the center field position. The second base thing, to me, not really a worry.
Center field or second base, yeah.
Not really a worry to me because they could do 2 things. You want to give Ronnie Mauricio a shot, have him play third base. Put Brett Baty at second. Or have Ronnie play second and put Brett Baty at third. Give those guys a shot. Let them get their reps in early and see what they can give you within the first 2 to 3 months. If they're not doing it, cool. Took the chance. But these kids have talent and they've shown it. Mark Vientos, instead of y'all going ahead and if y'all, let's say Kyle Schwarber he goes back to Philadelphia, which I think he will. Have Mark Vientos as your DH. Tell Mark, yo, the pressure's off of you, bro. You don't got to play the field. I want you just to focus on your contact. You have amazing power as a righty. You are one of the best fastball hitters that we've had in a while because he destroys fastballs. Focus on that. Let's focus on that. And if Manny Ramirez becomes our hitting coach, I have no doubt whatsoever that Manny Ramirez is going to make that kid even better than what we saw in 2024.
For sure. I think
if you got to be better, his approach got to be better.
Yeah.
Because
if you give Vientos the at bats and be like, listen, you're my DH, you are going to be my DH for the whole year. Go get him, kid. And Manny is your hitting coach. I think the guy could hit. I think if you give him the at bats that a regular player has, like a Pete Alonso, you're gonna have at least 25 to 26 home runs from Mark Vientos. Because in 393 at bats this year, he had 17 home runs around there, or 18. So if you put the math 2 and 2 together.
Listen, they could also go ahead and take those 3 shots of sand. They could also go ahead and trade Vientos, Mauricio, or Baty. But I gotta make sure that it makes sense. I gotta sure that it's it's worth doing.
Big Frank says I think it's safe to say that he won't even be here. Vientos.
Wow. Nothing is safe.
Wow.
As of right now, in my opinion. Again, like I said, David Stearns has to do the action. Especially how this season turned out, I need to see action at this point. I need to see action.
Yeah, man, we need to see action. We need to see this team get overall better. And I mean, there's dreams out there. There's Ketel Marte and a potential trade. Like there's Jose Ramirez. There's definitely dream guys that I know people want. But overall, when it comes to this team, you need starting pitching. I think you need starting pitching. If you do not get starting pitching, I don't think we're going to win. I don't see us winning. But how do you feel about Brandon Sproul? Like so far, the way the way he was, do you feel like, are you penciling him in for the rotation next year? Because I felt like, to me, the way it looked like, there
Mhm.
was some mistrust from the organization and Brandon Sproul. Like they first of all, they took McLean and they jumped him over him. Then they took Jonah Tong and they jumped over Brandon Sproul. And then they also was giving him like quick hooks and putting him on pitch limits. And it looked like that. Like they took him out at 67 pitches at some point, like 70 pitches. I don't know how you feel about it, but I just felt like, to me, it looked like there was some mistrust from the organization.
I mean, I would look at it more of a situation where they were trying to like, not overuse him. Uh when he was starting, I didn't think he was bad. Guy has an electric fastball, has a nice changeup. Again, he attacks the zone. Very confident in
Yeah. His
in
first start, I think he had like a no hitter, like in the first, what, 5 innings,
like it was like
something like
five.
that.
Yeah, yeah. I think
Like,
by the fifth inning they hit him, but yeah, he was cruising.
yeah,
He was
yeah,
definitely cruising. Yeah. Um. Yeah. With him, I have no issue with him. I think what they'll do with him though is they're gonna look at him and Jonah Tong and be like, all right, let's see what you guys could do in spring training. If you guys cruise through spring training, you're back here. McLean, I think they'll do the same thing, but I think he's earned himself a little bit of a better leash to where they'll
yeah.
still give him that opportunity no matter how spring training goes. Unless it's really bad, unless his spring training is really bad. So,
And speaking of those Mets prospects, when it comes to Jonah Tong, when it comes to Sproat, I like Jonah Tong, to me, and this is just me. I feel like it's a little concerning, that fastball. He throws in the middle a lot. I don't know how you feel about it, but I'm a little concerned. The kid is young, I get it, and he's 22. He hasn't faced that much adversity. I
mhm,
understand that, and I hope. To me, I would want him to be in AAA to start the year. I don't
mhm,
want Jonah Tong to be a part of the rotation right away, because from what I've seen really good. I've seen some. The Padres start was good. The Marlins start was good, but the other starts, the Cincinnati one, the Texas one. I mean, the Cubs one. It just wasn't good. It wasn't good,
mhm.
and it looked like he just didn't. He just didn't have it. Like the fastball, it was just getting hit hard. It was getting hit hard, and it didn't look like he had that strikeout pitch. It didn't look like he was using that curveball, to me, which I feel like that's one of his best pitches. But
Right.
he wants to go fastball changeup, and obviously he was, credit to Jonah Tong, he was the minor league pitcher of the year, minor league pitcher of the year. But that fastball is what got him. That was
Right.
his strikeout pitch, strikeout. That was his pitch. That was his go-to strikeout pitch. But in the majors, you saw that wasn't really going to work that much. How do you feel about Jonah Tong as a prospect so far? Are you worried a little about him? Where are you starting him next year?
I mean, I'm not worried about him. I just think he could use a little bit more time in the minors in AAA. He only had 2 starts in AAA before they called him up. So he didn't really get enough ample time to really set his feet in AAA and really just get a good amount of starts before definitely getting called up. Again, I think that call up was just one of those call ups where David Stearns try to just see if he could save himself. And of course, we were excited, but at the same time, it didn't work. And he kind of struggled. He kind of paid the price for it, kind of relying too much on his fastball when he needed to use the changeup at times. He was overusing it as well. Kind of goes back to my points with Jeremy Hefner. I know I saw somebody in the comments put, "Oh, pitching coach can't pitch for these guys." Yeah, he can't. They can't. But at the same time, what you tell them in certain situations plays a big key. The conversations that you're having with them in the dugout plays a big key. And I didn't see Jeremy Hefner sitting next to Jonah Tong and going over what and again, I'm somebody that says we don't have to see everything. But in a
Yeah.
moment where he struggles, you need to sit with this kid and actually talk to him, see where he's at mentally, and kind
And
of figure out where he went right and
Sean
went
Manaea
wrong.
did that with him when he struggled after that start against in Texas. Sean Manaea,
Right.
he talked to him, he sat with him, And he was like, you see that guy out there, Jacob deGrom, he's had one of those starts as well. So credit to Sean Manaea. And when it comes to but there was starts with Luis Torrens that looked good. And then there was starts with Francisco Alvarez that didn't look good. Do you feel like that was because of the catcher? Like, do you feel like, or that was just coincidence?
Nah, I mean, nah, I think it could be a measure of both. Um, Francisco Alvarez has enough intel as well because he's behind the play and he's seeing different things. So I think it could be a thing of both. Um, mistakes happen. And at the end of the day, it may not even be both of them. It may be just that Jonah Tong just really didn't have it. And, he was kind of struggling. But at the end of the day, there's two guys that he could really, really trust in terms of giving him tips while he's there. And it's obviously Jeremy Hefner, who's watching his every move while he's on the mound. And it's, Francisco Alvarez who's catching for him and he's seeing things from his perspective as well. So I just think it's one of those things where, they try to tell him as much as they could. And he just struggled. But this kid has a lot to learn. He's very talented, and I think he'll be in the rotation next year. But I think what they do with him is to make sure that his thing is sharp and he's fully grasped his first, 2-3 months in being in the majors. I think he starts in AAA and then they bring him back up.
Okay. Yeah. No, I see what you're saying. And then we could get to Carson Bench and a guy like Jet Williams, Ryan Clifford, AJ Ewing, those prospects. I think when it comes to Carson Bench, he had a really good AA. He was batting like 3 something in AA, and then he went to AAA with Jet and all those guys. And Bench struggled. He got injured, but then he struggled a bit. I think it was 100 something at bats. He batted like 178 overall, and he wasn't hitting a lot of extra base hits. Are you, from what I just told you, are you putting Benj out there to start the year, or are you keeping him at AAA? Because to me, I feel like center field is a big position and that we need something from. And I just don't want to see Tyrone Taylor and Jose Siri out there next year for 3 months or whatever. I mean personally. So if you put Benj out there, I might take that risk, but I don't know how you feel about that. There's also guys like Cody Bellinger that could potentially be a free agent. And, and maybe they could go after him. I don't know.
I mean, listen, if Cody wants to take a 1-year deal, I'm for it. Another lefty, a better lefty that probably plays a position a little bit better than and hits better than fucking Cedric Mullins.
Yeah, I mean, my guess is
but
Cody wants probably multi-year deal. That's my guess.
I don't see the Mets really doing that with him.
Okay.
However, Jose Siri, now that he's basically not with the Mets anymore, we don't have to worry about that.
Oh, he's not with the Mets no more?
No, no, that's it. You didn't peep that they let him go.
Okay.
However, I do think what they should do, and as much as people are not going to like it, start the season off with Tyrone Taylor. Tyrone Taylor has 1 more year left. Let Bench start the year in AAA. Let him start the year on a good momentum. And if shit goes haywire with Tyrone Taylor, call him up. You know what I'm saying? It won't hurt. But let this kid start the year off in AAA and just let him get comfortable again before he makes a big leap like that. To where if he starts the year like that, then he goes cold for 2 months, people are gonna be like, "Oh, he's not ready. This kid's not it." Da, 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 da. Where at least I know Tyrone Taylor, yeah, he's not gonna be consistently on offense. He's not gonna be consistent on offense, but he'll give me that center field defense. I never question his defense at center field. It's his offense that I question because he's very inconsistent. He's better defender than Cedric Mullins in terms of last year, in terms of last season. So, Tyrone Taylor makes contact, and that's what you want. So he'll put the ball in play for the most part. But I'll stick with Tyrone Taylor for maybe 2 months, 3 months, and
Even if
depending on
even
how
if bench has a, like San said, a strong spring training, you still keeping him at AAA?
No, if his spring training goes well, then you definitely got to consider bringing him up here. But again, that's ties into how spring training goes for these guys. It's the same thing with the pitching. If Carson, if not Carson Bench, excuse me, if Brendan Sproat and Jonah
Mhm.
Tong end up shit in the bed in spring training, you really think I'm gonna put them in my rotation? No, I'm gonna have those
Yeah,
guys get their consistency back in AAA before I decide to bring them up. It's the same thing with Ronald McClain.
for sure. For sure. No, yeah, I think, man, McLean, that's a guy that oof, he's I don't think there's a pitcher like him out there, man. He's impressive, man. But these Mets prospects, I think they gotta hit on some of these guys, right? You gotta apparently, like, if you want sustainable success, like David Stearns and Cohen talks about all the time, you're gonna have to hit on some of these prospects. So I hope that they hit on Carson Bench. I hope they hit on Jet. Um, and yeah, man, that they got to get better. And then yeah, the last thing is I want to get into is just
Mhm.
Senga and Manaya. Are they both on this team next year?
I think Manaya is better. I think Manaya right now has a better chance of being on this team than Kodai Senga. Um, One, Manaya they just signed, so unless they trade him, I don't think they're getting rid of him. If he's on this starting
Yeah.
rotation, that's more of the question that I would say, yeah, I would put in question. Would he be in the
Yeah, I
starting
feel like it's
rotation?
wishy-washy with Manaya. Like I don't know if I want if I would if I feel if I trust him in the rotation. Like going forward.
Right,
I don't
right.
know. Like because let's say they get some starters and they make
Mhm,
they make a trade or something. Maybe
mhm.
they could put Manaya in a mid relief role. I don't know. Maybe
Maybe,
maybe.
maybe we'll
We'll
see
see.
how we'll see what that decision entails. But I think Manaya has a better chance of
Of
staying here. Where
Yeah.
Senga, Senga still has his good stuff. It's just when it applies. I
Yeah.
think I think for Senga to rebrand himself, I think he needs to go down to a team with a little bit of less pressure, a team that's not really winning like that. And I think that
Mhm.
Sandy Alcantara trade would definitely be something that would make sense because we love Senga. I love Senga. I was happy when we signed him, but it's just he's
I
always
mean,
hurt.
he had a really good rookie year. He had a really good rookie year.
I
And
thought,
he was
yeah, yeah.
he's been injury prone. He's been a guy that to me is kind of a soft pitcher. Like he's always needs to be perfect. This like I don't know that, but this is just my opinion. I just feel like he's a soft pitcher. He needs to be perfect. Everything needs to be perfect. And yeah, there's some. I don't know if I see him being with this team next year going forward, especially what I heard from Stearns. Talking about I'm not penciling him in for those 30 starts or whatever. So I
Yeah.
think it could be the case that the guy could be traded. Now Manaya, I think he ain't going nowhere. Um, but we'll see, man. Yeah, guys, I appreciate you guys being here with us, taking the time out of your day. Yeah, we're gonna go. Hopefully, I don't know if you had dinner, but I'm gonna go probably eat some dinner.
Yeah,
But
me
yeah,
too.
no,
I'm
I just
starving.
wanted to say appreciate you, my guy. If you want to shout out whatever you need to shout out for your channel, I'll shout you out as well. So Top Bunks, subscribe to Top Bunk Sports, guys. He covers the Mets. He's covered Knicks. And yeah, man, he loves sports. So yeah, that's my guy, my brother.
Appreciate you, Brody. Thank you for having me, man. You know you're my guy. Yo, make sure y'all. I always tell y'all, man. Randy knows his shit. Me and Randy, man, that was fun. Even though we didn't really do a lot of in game lives, it was fun.
We will next year.
Will
We will next
next
year.
year, yes, next year we will be doing a lot of them next year.
Yeah.
But please subscribe to his channel on YouTube, man. Randy knows his shit. Randy does a
Shout out
lot.
to Eva. You guys
Um,
do the best lives. Really appreciate it.
Appreciate you, mama. Thank you. Just subscribe to him, show him some love. This dude shows a lot of people love, and gives his time to everybody. Yeah, like I said, subscribe to his YouTube channel, follow him on X, Instagram, and just show him love, man. He does a lot, especially with sports content. And yeah, he deserves that. So please show my guy love, man.
Appreciate you, bro. Appreciate you. All right, we're gonna get out of here, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your Monday night, and there's supposed to be some Monday night football as well, so enjoy that. Let's go, Mets.
Peace out.